If I was a Democrat, I'd be pretty worried that you've had your best stuff and it hasn't really moved the needle.
No, there was a big bounce for her after the convention, but there was a bigger bounce after the debate. No, there was a big bounce for her after the convention, but there was a bigger bounce after the debate.
Though Trump-sympathizing political commentator Piers Morgan has been surprisingly more critical of Donald Trump than I expected here lately, there's no doubt that he wants Trump to win the 2024 election, and you need look no further than the cope, the obvious, blatant cope that he tried to spew on his most recent U.S. politics panel, only to be brutally fact-checked to his face by a conservative British politician, and it's glorious. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have a clip or two to watch in this video. Piers Morgan, again, he's surprising me here lately. The last two U.S. politics panels that he's hosted have been refreshing in that they've been more critical of Trump than they usually are. I hesitate to say it's been 50-50, but he's done a much better job. Piers, if you're watching, please like and subscribe and continue on this trajectory. However, again, he's a well-known Trump sympathizer. He's a close friend or a close associate of Donald Trump. He clearly wants him to win the 2024 election. And to that end, he goes on this kind of, I don't want to say incoherent, but certainly unsubstantiated claims that it's actually the vice president, it's Kamala Harris, struggling in the polls and that she's not doing well post-debate. And again, only to be fact-checked by a former conservative British politician to his face on his panel.
You know what, Louise?
Speaking of threats to democracy.
Well, Louise, what's interesting is there's been no appreciable bump for Kamala Harris since the debate. There wasn't really one since the convention, not in the swing states where it really matters. And I can see the Democrats falling into the same trap they did with Hillary, where the national polling seems to show this, growing sort of movement to Kamala Harris, but the swing states don't. And ultimately, we know it's going to come down to those. If I was a Democrat, I'd be pretty worried that you've had your best stuff and it hasn't really moved the needle.
No, there was a big bounce for her after the convention, but there was a bigger bounce after the debate. We're talking about +5, +6, +4. Some of those are outside the margin of error. Anybody that knows anything about polls knows that likely voters matter a lot. The registered voters, and also the swing state polling has been very, very good. I mean, there was an Iowa poll that showed Donald Trump up 4 points. The previous poll showed him up 18 points on Joe Biden. Now, he's not going to take Iowa, but that's a big swing he should be worried about. If he's polling that way in that state, then he's got to worry about Pennsylvania, about Michigan, about those working class states, the Rust Belt, that is the absolute key to victory. And I would much, much rather be Kamala Harris than I would be Donald Trump electorally right now. There is a reason that he said, I hate Taylor Swift, and it's that somebody showed him internals and showed him new registrations, new voters coming in through that link that she put out to vote.com. Some say 300,000. The last two close elections were decided on 50,000 votes each over a small amount of swing.
So again, this is Louise Mensch, former British politician in the House of Commons, I don't know if you saw it, but when he was going on, there's been no appreciable bump. She hasn't done anything. It's been kind of a total waste. You see Louise Mensch kind of like do a double take because it's obviously not true. And indeed, it is not. That is pure cope from Piers Morgan. We talked about some of the polling and over the past couple of days in recent videos, but she's right. She listed them off. Simon Rosenberg of the Hopium Chronicles went through them too. In one poll after another, the vice president has expanded her lead in the head-to-head at the national level, but also in the swing states as well. So Newsweek kind of has an encapsulation of this. Kamala Harris hits record polling lead over Donald Trump. Kamala Harris has increased her polling lead over Trump to record highs, according to the latest Morning Consult poll. The vice president is currently 6 percentage points ahead of among likely voters, 51 to Trump's 45%, which is double the advantage she held before their debate last week. The polling also showed that Harris had a strong lead with independent voters, with 47% said they were planning on voting for her. 41% said the same about Trump, with a further 6% undecided about the decision and another 6% voting for a third-party candidate. Independent voters are expected to be key to winning crucial battleground states in November's election, which, by the way, before we go on, is another reason why RFK Jr. Said that he's trying to remove himself from critical swing state ballots where, quote, my presence would hurt Donald Trump. So he's doing strategically to screw over the Democrats. He's going to remain on ballots where he thinks his presence will advantage Donald Trump, but he wants to remove himself from ballots where he thinks that removal will benefit Trump electorally. So again, when you hear some people say, oh, Democrats, because they're trying to keep RFK Jr. on the ballot in some places and Jill Stein off the ballot in other places, both sides engage in this sort of political skullduggery to one extent or another, including Donald Trump and RFK Jr. So please don't be misled by their claims of principle because it's just not true. Congressional Democrats also whittled away at Republican advantages on key issues, lowering their lead on immigration from 13 points to 7, their lead on national security from 8 points to 3. Both of these issues, along with the economy, have been the largest talking points the Trump campaign has to offer. And according to Newsweek's polling tracker, Harris maintains a 3-point lead nationally of Trump, while also leading slightly in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But Trump, according to Newsweek, the most recent polls, is only ahead demonstrably and slightly in Arizona, but the most recent polls have put Georgia and North Carolina as toss-ups within the margin of error. So right now, not that couldn't change tomorrow, but right now, she is winning this election. Owen Winter of The Economist is pointing this out as well. Harris's largest lead to date in our tracker, 4.4 points, as the debate bounce materializes. Dave Wasserman, famous election predictor and forecaster of Cook Political Report, he also has the vice president ahead. With new post-debate polls, Harris is up 2.2 points in the Cook Political Report's national polling average. In the crosstab, she's consolidating black voters and 18 to 29-year-old voters, still off Biden's 2020 pace, but big gains. Polymarket, which is where people gamble, this is probably the best news for Trump because it has them tied 49 to 49, but higher than it was, suggesting again, this is indeed a polling increase. Nationally, again, if you look at the polls, this is latest polls in aggregate. So it's got Pennsylvania, Georgia, Missouri, Maryland, right? It's kind of grouping them all in there. But if you just look at the national race, if I can find it here. I had it set up this way. I don't know why I switched it on me, but if you have it up this way, again, up 4, up 6, up 4, Trump up 3, according to Atlas Intel, sketchy, but up 4, up 4, up 4, up 4, up 4, up 2. And then if you look at the top battlegrounds, so battle for the White House national headline, Trump is down by 2 points to Vice President Harris. She's up by 2. Battleground states, the vice president is up by 0.1 percentage point. So again, it depends on, this is the conservative, Real Clear Politics, I might add. So again, overall, she is leading even according to that. If you look at 538, again, they have the vice president leading Donald Trump. And then on top of all of that bad news, today is National Voter Registration Day, and you should make sure that you are, if you are an eligible voter, that you are properly registered so you can go out and make your vote to the American people, either by way of absentee ballot, mail-in ballot, or in-person voting. So the Swifties are mobilized, and they are also spreading the word just like Taylor Swift herself did. Last thing I'll say is some of these polls, or many of these aggregates, also include polls that had not dropped prior to the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And many people are asking, will this materialize in an appreciable boost for Trump? I'm not a prophet. I'm not psychic, but I don't think so. I don't think it'll happen for a few reasons. Number one, it didn't happen after the first attempt on Trump's life. As a matter of fact, if you recall, MAGA Republican politicians were complaining about it. No one's talking about it. No one seems to care that something happened to Trump. Right or wrong, that was indeed the case. I mean, Donald Trump's approval rating barely got, I think it got close to 50%. And that was the highest it had ever been, or excuse me, the highest it had been in years. I don't think it even cracked 50%, as a matter of fact, because he's never been over 50% approval rating or favorability rating in the aggregate. So being shot in the head and having video footage of it, right? That's the other thing. Remember, in this particular assassination attempt, not only was he not shot at, he was not shot. The suspect was identified, disarmed, and neutralized and taken alive. And Trump was fine. If not for hearing Secret Service fire, he probably would have never known about this to begin with. So with all these factored in, I don't expect that there will be a sympathy wave coming for Donald Trump manifesting in the polls, because again, it didn't really happen the last time either. And it should have happened. If it was ever going to happen, it would happen the first time, given that he was shot, given that we did see the footage. And it was shocking for everybody. But Donald Trump is so unlikable that it didn't really approve his standing. So perhaps this would change, but I doubt it. I really doubt it. So yeah, Piers Morgan just got fact-checked to his face. Again, I understand that He's been more critical of Trump lately, but please don't doubt it for a second. He wants Trump to win. And him being confronted with the facts that right now Trump is losing, not that Trump can't win, but that right now Trump is indeed losing to Kamala Harris, has to be really frustrating for him to hear. And I have no doubt that it's frustrating for the MAGA Republicans in his audience and for Donald Trump, who likely obsessively watches everything Piers Morgan has to say. So good news for the rest of us. A great performance by Louise Mensch, fact-checking him, just dropping the facts and the logic and the figures. Love to see it. In the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.